You are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Jack Marino, Warrior Filmmaker, right here on LA Talk Radio.
This is Jack Marino, ladies and gentlemen. You're a host of the Warrior Filmmaker Show on latalkradio.com, here in the heart of Hollywood. I'm broadcasting to you tonight live somewhere off Mulholland Drive, high in the darkened Hollywood Hills, and not too far from that famous Hollywood sign. Sitting in my smoke-filled, dimly lit studio, I can see through the Venetians the vast expanse of the City of Angels, with its millions upon millions of lights twinkling in the night sky. And make no mistake, each one of those lights comes with its very own story. In the dark canyon far below the studio is the former estate of legendary movie actor Errol Flynn. And that is one incredible story that never ends. So pull up your favorite chair, light up a smoke, pour yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hear about those wild nights at the Garden of Allah, and of the Bundy Drive boys and their wicked, wicked ways, of the studios, the moguls, the agents, directors, producers, writers, actors, mobsters, dames, all those things that gave Hollywood its character. Learn the truth about independent filmmaking. And because of the politics of Hollywood, one is treated like a fly, buzzing around on a screen door on those hot summer nights. Listen to my guests when they tell their stories of when the world was young, when they drank life like wine and lived like the wind. So take a trip with me now back in time to the golden era of Hollywood, where men were men and women were glamorous. A time when style meant class, and doing the right thing was a way of life, and virtue was its own reward. For this is Hollywood. This is the only place in the world that has the stuff that dreams are made of. Well, this is Jack Marino, and we're back on another Sunday night. I got some feedback coming in here. Chet, are you there?
I'm there, Jack. How are you?
Okay. Okay, there it is. Okay, it went away. Okay. We get... let me give out the phone number here. First, anyone who wants to call the show, it's 818-602-4929. That's 818-602-4929. Tonight's guest is an old friend from my high school, well, our high school back in Everett, Massachusetts, Ted Bruce, Ted Minos, a.k.a. known as Ted Minos. Ted, we just got a little messed up here with the sound, so it threw me off my game here, so I'm going to get you on the show right away. So, Chet is the founding, producing, artistic director of the Moose Hall Theater Company out of New York. I mean, they're actually a theater company that performs in, is it near Central Park or is it in Central Park?
No, it's actually Inwood Hill Park, which is in the northernmost tip of New York City.
Okay.
So it's actually, we produce the Inwood Shakespeare Festival, Moose Hall Theater Company, and we produce the Inwood Shakespeare Festival every summer. Okay. And this summer we'll be beginning once for our 15th season.
Okay, that's great. Let me play the little clip that you sent me, and this is their announcement. And so let me play this here. So here it is.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 14th annual season of your Inwood Shakespeare Festival. We have a few brief announcements before our performance.
Hey, Ted.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Are you getting any little feedback on the air?
Initially, yeah, but it went away.
Okay.
You chased it away, I think.
Yeah, they've done some rewiring here, so... So
it's like being in a basement when we were kids.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, Chet and I go back almost 40-something years here. I don't want to say the figure, but
oh my God, yeah, I would say so. That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
And I think we both. I don't know if you did any acting before the senior talent show, but.
Well, I guess unbeknownst to you guys, I started quite young.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it, though.
Yeah.
Way back when a lot of us kids took, I was a kid who took tap dancing as well as music. So I've been on stage, I guess, since I was about 6 years old, really.
Okay, all right. So what was it in Everett? Did you take the dancing lessons?
Let me see. In those days, it was first it was the Fred Astaire Studios, and there was a gentleman called Arthur Brophy, and he broke away from them and started his own group, the Arthur Brophy Dance. And do you know who was in it? Now, this is between me and Jack, folks. This is just old stuff. Phil Popolo was one of the dancers.
Really?
So I actually knew Phil Popolo back in, I think, 1960, and he's one of the kids who took and was doing shows out there with us.
Wow.
And it was in Medford and Malden, and I think some of the shows were in Everett. I mean, I can't remember when, but we played various little auditoriums once we got our routines together.
Yeah,
but so we go way back with dancing.
Okay, let me tell you my secret. Okay.
Yeah.
Which I've kept hidden for years.
Yeah,
my dad put me into my parents, not my dad, but my dad didn't want me to be a wallflower, so he put me in the Marino Dance Studio, no relation to us, in Everett.
I remember that name, yes. Now, what kind of dance was that?
Well, we did tap, and then I did modern jazz, so I did a lot of stuff that Gene Kelly did.
There you go.
Yeah. So, but we used to perform at the recitals at the John Hancock Theater in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
They were like big Ed Sullivan shows. They were huge, costumes, everything, orchestras, everything. Big.
That's right. We might have been stuck in there as well. I think it was a compilation of groups and kids. There was I remember young contortionists going on backstage. It's very vaudeville-like, which kind of very, very, I don't know if that happens anymore in the same way. Certainly didn't with my kids, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, it was a good experience. I had a lot of fun, and, kind of got me out there doing stuff, and, and I wasn't afraid to dance, so I knew how to dance, and I knew how to move. And then eventually, when I went into Northeastern, I ended up getting into fencing, so... taking falls and stuff like that. So it all kind of worked out when you're young and thin and you can move around.
It's good to keep moving even when you're old.
I know.
Thin or fat.
Yeah. So Ted, you were because we put together the senior talent show. I mean, us and a few other people, but I mean we all had our little skits to do, and that's when I think I really got to know you, and you were talking about acting and stuff like that. But we never, I don't think we ever talked about moving out of Boston or whatever, like we did.
No, you had the great conversations about, I think, the great film capital.
Yeah.
I was interested in film for its own sake, and in those days, my great inspirations with film was people like Stanley Kubrick and Fellini and Bergman, etc.
Right.
And those people were some of the people that took me out of myself. Now, that's in combination with people like the Marx Brothers and Woody Allen, on the other hand, the other side of drama.
Right.
So they were significant for me, as well as music. But film had a great place in my heart. And when we grew up, where we grew up, there wasn't much theater to speak of. You'd have to go in Boston, and it's not like New York. It was even less accessible, and you really had to know where it was.
Right.
So I grew up in a movie theater, in the Park Theater, in fact.
That's right.
When it comes to entertainment, and I was there like every Saturday.
I know.
For years,
all of us.
For most of my childhood. So I'm sure you were there too.
We were probably in the same theater, probably a few rows from each other.
Yeah, if we could see each other, because you remember there were baby boomers, so there was probably 400 of us every Saturday in that
and we
jammed into that little theater.
And then you remember Leo that owned the theater. He used to shut the projector off, and we all got rowdy.
Well, there's a whole routine. When I wrote an adaptation of War of the Worlds, and I included that routine up there. And one of the men was a gentleman named Charlie, if you remember.
Yeah.
Charlie, big African-American man, very amiable. He was quite a raconteur. He was an usher there one time. He had a booming voice, and we would make so much raucous noise. You couldn't hear the film, but we could for some reason. We never could quite understand why they were yelling at us, right?
Yeah.
And he would scream to Jack. The projectionist was Jack. That's right.
Right.
And he would say, Jack, turn off the sound. Remember?
Yeah.
You'd see nothing but the screen. Then he could yell at us even louder.
Right.
And he said, if you don't quiet, we won't turn the sound back on.
I know.
We wouldn't get quiet. Turn off the picture. They turn off the picture. It was a regular routine every Saturday.
Oh, it was. And it was a lot of fun. And the thing, too, was, what I remember, above our heads, there was candy flying. It was like in the air. It never fell. It was just in like flies. And it was everybody throwing candy.
I remember those images, candy flying across the screen, the shadows on the screen.
Yeah, the shadows on the screen.
And the shadows of popcorn boxes,
yeah,
of
the
course.
popcorn. And then we used to all cut out the popcorn boxes and wear them for glasses, you know.
Exactly. And at the end of the show, what do we do for popcorn boxes? We dived under the seats to collect them, because if you had, 25, you'd get a quarter or something like that. Or, no, it was more than that. We had about 100 of those things.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit of money, a little bit of change. And with the change, what would you do? You buy more candy.
More candy, that's right. We had the penny candy. Used to get five of those little Mexican hats for a penny, and everything was like five for a penny, So
it was a definite system, because it worked out with my allowance. You could see with the film, and they'd always give us a double feature.
I know.
Right?
That's right.
And then between the features, there was a balloon breaking contest, and then it was the drawing for the special prize.
Yeah,
but if you had the little stamp Leo or something on the back of your ticket, then you got to participate in the balloon breaking contest.
Right, that's true, yeah.
And then there would be a short, right? It would be... Now, what he did was wonderful. If you remember, he would show the old serials.
Right.
Like the Perils of Pauline, or the Claw, or Batman, or the original Three Stooges uncut, made for all those little shorts that he saw. I think he experienced back in the 30s.
Yeah.
I think he recreated that experience for us.
Oh, he did, and it was great. And then, basically, all the kids from Everett were in that theater at that time every Saturday. All of us.
It certainly felt like it.
Yeah.
It certainly felt like
it. It gave our parents a break. So our parents.
Well,
they probably
we were out. I think we were out a heck of a lot anyway.
Yeah.
Our life was pretty much outside on the pavement and the sidewalk.
Yeah. And, so then, tell that fascinating story about you. You're in Boston, because I always remember you always had a camera around your neck, and you shooting pictures everywhere in school, in the classrooms, in the corridors, everywhere, and then.
Yes, I still have them too.
Yeah, and you took a picture of this girl on the sidewalk. So tell that story. It's an incredible story.
Well, this is about 1970, 71.
Right.
And I had my camera. I was in Boston with a friend of mine, and as usual, I'm taking pictures of interesting people, characters, and the character of the town. I really love the town. I love Boston deeply. I think that carries through. I still have that love. And pretty girls. And there was one fetching blonde at the corner of Tremont. Was it Tremont and Boylston Street?
Right.
And snapped her picture. And that was that. And many years later, I met Kathy when I was an actor at the Roundabout Theater. She was an intern.
Right.
And scared the bejesus out of her with my young intensity at that point in time.
Oh, yeah.
But eventually, over the years, we did start dating, and then we eventually married. And many, many years into the marriage, after the children were born, I'm sifting through these old negatives and pictures, and I saw this picture I had taken of this girl, and I'm looking at it, and I realized that looks just like Kathy.
Yeah.
And I said, this looks just like you. I took it to her. She goes, oh, I was in Boston then. I said, you were? She goes, yeah, that's my coat, and that's the bag. And her mother verified the fact that's the coat she lent her, and there's the bag, and she happened to be there with another boyfriend seeing a show, and they were picking her up at the corner.
Yeah.
So serendipity or fate or what have you, there you are.
That's right. That's a great story. You should write a script about it. Write a story around that, And,
well, Well, there's just a plethora of stories about Boston. I think Boston for me, well, if you go even further, deeper than that, Everett for me is kind of like the Dublin for James Joyce.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
it was that cauldron, I would say.
That's right.
That created me, in a sense that formed the things I needed to do, wanted to do. It helped me discover the things that I could do. Not in the most delightful of ways, mind you. It wasn't pleasant, but it was important and vital for my creative life. Yeah. And it still, I can say, nourishes me. So I had a tough time in Boston in that period. But I still have a great fondness for it. And the same thing with Everett. It's a thing that is gone, I think, from American life. And I think it was quite common, that kind of little town, working class town life. Right. But it doesn't exist as it does anymore. And it's not a bad thing that things change, but there were some wonderful things in it. Yeah. There were some significantly terrible things in it too, as in any place. Right. But the good things, I think, I will tell those stories, and hopefully with an open heart, because I think at this point in time, I have no axe to grind. So everyone has a marvelous story to tell from wherever they come from in that town. I'm sure there's a lot of stories from other individuals. But, I do intend to tell mine. And I do have a fondness for that town.
Oh yeah, it was a great place growing up. It was very innocent in the late '50s, early '60s, and even in the '70s when we met. Pope John, the 23rd High School was, I think, when we were there, the building was only 3 years old. We were the third class in that building.
We were there. Were we the third or the second?
Yeah.
I think we were the second, right? I collected the yearbooks because I was doing research since I became the class photographer, I was going to research. Yeah. And let me think.
Well, they got the first
books before me, or three?
There was two.
I think there were two. I think you're right. We might have been the third, right?
Yeah, it was 70, 71, and 72.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it was a brand new spanking school, as it were.
Yeah.
That was part of the allure, I guess. And it was local.
It was, and it was walking distance for all of us, especially.
Well, not all of us. I believe some kids were coming from Charlestown. Some were coming from further out. Yeah. But I could walk.
Yeah, that's me too. I walked. We walked everywhere in Everett. We one end of the city to the next,
I'll tell you what we did. We were on bicycles, and you were, a paper lad and all that.
Oh yeah.
But it seemed like growing up in Boston, there were a couple of things. Being a kid, having to learn how to ride a bicycle was essential. Right. And the next thing, I don't know if it's not particular Boston or not, but growing up then, driving a car was like growing up in, I guess, the Midwest and learning how to ride a horse in the old days. Because by the time you were 16, you knew the ins and outs of driving, and particularly driving in New England, what to do when it was icy, what to do when it was rainy. Right. I mean, those are some of my earliest memories. I'm like, 7 years old, and you gotta do this with the brakes. It just, you inculcate all that information. By the time you were ready to drive, it was very natural.
That's right. And then then we do, at a certain age, we went from walking to the subway to the bus to the subway into Boston. So it was a lot of fun. It was it was like a mini New York, and. We didn't get.
It was quite. Well, I'll tell you, it's quite different than New York. Yeah. But in New York, I love to. New York has been very good to me. Yeah. But it's another animal. At least it was. Now I haven't lived. I've come through from time to time and visited, but I actually haven't lived in Boston since 1975. I think that's when I went to England.
Right.
And my folks sold the house, so I had no place to come back to in Boston. I could go to Martha's Vineyard. That's where they moved, retired to. But it was pretty much from there, from London to New York for me.
Yeah. And your old home is gone now, so it's.
I was born in Boston City Hospital. They tore that down. Yeah. My old home. It was a wonderful. That was a wonderful, distinct kind of a way to grow up in an old Victorian house.
Yeah.
That burned down. Yeah. So everything is. The history I have to have my history in my mind, you know, because it's not there physically, which is fine.
Now, what made you want to go to London to study acting instead of going to the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York or any of those places?
Well, let's see. I needed to get away from Everett. I needed to get away from Boston at that point in time. And I had romantic notions about England, and I had a kind of a gut instinct. Now, when I was 19, I saved up enough money for a round-trip ticket and to England, and I got my passport, and I simply booked a flight. You wouldn't dream of doing this now. I simply booked the flight and went.
Yeah.
It was as simple as that. Now, I had no idea. I was so naive what I was going to do next.
Yeah.
I was getting along. But I had enough coin, and I had enough sense that when I got there, there was a little kiosk that said, find your hotel. So I found a little hotel in Notting Hill Gate. Now, Notting Hill Gate went from riches to kind of a rags, and then now it's back to riches again.
Right.
And at that point in time, it was a little down and out.
Right.
And I found a little place called the Poser Hotel, and got a little room on the top floor, and stayed there, got a book out, and found my way all around England for a while, for about a week or so, and met a number of people. And I realized that's where I wanted to study.
Yeah, yeah. And then,
so I came back a year later and went to school there.
And what school did you go to there?
I went to the drama studio.
Okay. And then, did you ever get your what do they call it? It's not an equity card, but it's like I think they call it the green card.
Oh, I've been a member of Actors Equity since well over 30 years.
Yeah.
Actors Equity, Screen Actors Guild, and AFTRA now, SAG and AFTRA now together.
Right.
They're SAG-AFTRA.
Right.
But I've been a member of all three for well over 30 years.
Well, what about the one that there's a card in England? They said if you get that card, and you can come back to New York and you basically can get on Broadway.
Well, there's no such thing. But
okay, yeah.
For one thing, in England, you would have to be you would have to have a permit, or what would you call it, a working permit, to be able to work there, and all sorts of machinations if you wanted to, as you would here.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't think about it. There's a British equity anyway, and it has it's their equity.
Right.
They have agreements in terms of how many actors are on this side and how many actors are on that side. But other than that, no.
Now, how was
there's no such thing.
Now, when you were studying there in England, did you actually do any theater? Because they got theaters everywhere. So did you ever get?
Well, they do. I didn't, but it was a conservatory program, so they had us up and running, just doing one show after another. The first one was Tuffy. It was within 2 weeks. And as a matter of fact, this year I'm producing and directing Rhinoceros. Well, it was Rhinoceros was the first one they threw me in.
Wow.
And I was wonderfully unequipped for it. And it was a humiliating experience, which was probably one of the best experiences I could have had.
I know.
It taught me through hard knocks, and I learned very quickly from then on.
That's right.
Because I didn't have the discipline to learn till I really had it, I had the actor's nightmare, and the actor's nightmare for real is a terrible thing, and you learn quick.
Oh, you do.
You learn quick what not to do.
I've been,
how to get on the books, learn your lines, study. Yeah. All that goes into it. Acting isn't easy. It takes a lot of work, and it was actually a very good thing for me to have done so poorly in the beginning.
Yeah, if you didn't, you wouldn't have continued. I mean, if it came easy, who knows if you would have continued? I mean, I had a tough.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
No, I had a tough teacher at Northeastern. I mean, the guy was, he was just an SOB. But if he wasn't that way, I wouldn't be here today. So I mean, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So he just pulled it out of you. He's like a Marine DI, So, and I've always been very grateful for that. I mean, everybody in the class hated him, and I respected him for it. And the thing, years later, I was in Boston, but showing the film Forgotten Heroes, and he had come up to me and he goes, Jack, he said, if you ever shoot a film in Boston, would you remember me? I said, Mort, if God blesses me to fund a movie and shoot it in Boston, you're in the picture, guaranteed. So I said, I owe you that. So, but I never got funded, so I never went back there. But he would have been great to be in there. I mean, it would have been great because he directed me and he was tough, and I don't think I would be as tough with him as he was with me, because I figured he would know what to do. But it would have been a lot of fun to direct, a former teacher. So it would have been, it wasn't in the cards. So what can we do?
Oh, not yet.
Yeah.
Right, not yet.
Well, that's true. So you spent 4 years over there, and then you came back.
Well, I came back. I didn't come back. I came to New York, and it was another vastly different place. There's another landscape here. We're coming into New York in the late 70s in the Upper West Side. Now, there's another funny thing. The Upper West Side was a place where a lot of artists, struggling young artists and dancers, and would go to live because it was cheap.
Yeah.
Well, it's nothing of the sort now. I was around to see the posh East Side, in a sense, move over to the West Side and change for good, as well as for some of the losses we had culturally too. It's never that black and white. So it was a great place in the beginning. It was cheap. It harbored a lot of theaters, and the old failure, the original failure, was a great refuge, because if I scrape up $1 or $2, they had these dollar nights during the week, and you could see all these one of those splendid old films. Not unlike the old Orson Welles Cinema in Cambridge, where we spent a lot of time.
Oh, we lived in it. You and I used to live in that place in Coolidge Con.
I went. Well, let's see. Some years ago, I didn't realize it was gone.
Yeah.
I said, "Where's the Orson Welles Cinema? I can't find it." This time says, "Oh, don't you know? He took it away. It's gone."
Yeah.
I was heartbroken.
It is.
There was that, and it was the Brattle Street Theater.
Yeah, the Brattle Street.
I think it was the Brattle Street Theater where I saw Orson Welles Shines at Midnight.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
When I was a kid.
Yeah. It's a great character.
Yeah.
I always
great thing. Cambridge is my heart. Yeah. Cambridge and Boston and the Boston Common. They're some of my earliest memories with my dad. Rest his soul. Yeah. And they live with you forever. Sailing on the Charles. We were working class kids. We were poor kids.
We were.
Not poor, but we were. Not quite. We certainly weren't middle class. No. And you could afford yet to join the sailing club in those days.
Yeah. Well, you posted that picture of your dad on Facebook, and I thought that was you. I mean,
yeah, I didn't see it. A lot of people, yes, I look like him.
Yeah.
But it's just good. That's flattering.
Yeah.
He was a handsome man.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we were all that thin, like he was, when we were that age. So, I just remembered, seeing that. It just shot back to high school, when I saw that. So it just because I haven't seen you since probably graduation day.
My God.
Yeah.
You want to know an interesting thing? We had the class reunion last year.
Yeah.
Now, I guess most people thought I vanished from the face of the earth because I had the professional name I'd use most of the time. If they Google me, they'd probably never find me, and all that. But the last time I had seen 99.9% of those my old classmates was when they were 18 years old.
I know.
And I had the pictures, so I volunteered to do all these shots for them that they hadn't seen.
Yeah.
I did a lot of yearbook pictures, but I had many more pictures that weren't in the yearbook, and I still had the old negatives.
Oh, good. We got to talk.
So I made a display of all of them for them. You should see them sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
The thing is, I was living. The point of the story is, I was living with them in 1970, 70 to 71 for like 10 days intensely. I also had transferred all of those old Super 8 movies I had taken of everyone and to DVD, and I made a film from them. Oh. So I was living with them for a long time, and then it's like going into the future for me. Yeah. So to come back to Boston, and there they are, 40 years later, it was a bit of a shock. And I'm sure they're shocked to see me. But it was great, too. It's marvelous. It was a marvelous experience.
Well, I mean, when you had, because no one could find you. I mean, we just thought you just, the earth just swallowed you up and you were gone. What happened to Ted? Nobody knew who you were.
I think there was a point in time I wanted to not exist for anyone in Everett.
Well,
I had feelings about it. Well, look, I grew up in a time in that town.
Yeah.
Now remember, it's Boston, Boston was the most open-minded of places when it came to anyone who was outside their culture.
Right.
Now, I had a mixed family, you know, and we're English, and we're Jewish, and we're African American, and we're Native American, and all that. Now, that's considered in those days, I think, anathema. That was horrible to most people's thinking, that there was people mixing blood like that. I grew up with these people. Now, with me and my family, because it wasn't distinct one way or another, we would be in a slipstream situation.
Right.
But when you're in a situation when there's a lot of bigotry, and that included a lot of people I grew up with, it could be horrendous, you know. And there was no particular cultural group to kind of help you or guide you.
Right.
It's a distinct group being mixed. So being sometimes on the worst side of that was very tough. It's a tough town anyway. If you're white or whatever, there were, you know, kids were tough, right? If you weren't, you know, you could get beat up behind the school because, you know, they wanted to take your bubble room cards or whatever. It was tough. You know, you got to admit. You had days like that no matter who you were.
That's right.
But if anyone singled you out as black or something, boy, man, it was another thing. So I had that going.
Right.
But I also had the fact that I could change. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I can inculcate other mannerisms and how to be and how to speak, just to save my derriere sometimes in some situations. So I think it did feed that notion of changing and mercurialism and understanding other cultures. Now, I wasn't brought up in any particular culture. It was quite firm in my family to bring me up, knowing I was mixed, not choosing anyone. So it would hurt me when people would say you're this or you're that from any side, because I wasn't. So it was to define yourself and be in a small group in a town in the 50s and 60s that had a heavy aspect of, you know, bigotry sometimes. I'm sorry to say, but it was. And again, I don't have an Instagram, but that was part and parcel of growing up in Everett. If you were a minority, and in the long run, as I said at the beginning of this show, I think it nourished me. When we talked about this earlier, it created the character you are. And there's something, in a sense, good. Is it the diamond in the rough? Is that the image I'm seeking? That pressure creates something. Like the oyster will of a pearl. You know, the pressure of the earth will to a diamond. I think it can bring out a good thing. When you look at the old wonderful performers, the Jewish performers from the Marx Brothers, the Stooges, or what have you, and you think about the places they played and how they became hard as nails, it was important to them not so much as to bewail their going through hard times socially, but to overcome them. Right. So I think, you know, at this point in my life, at this juncture, I look at it in that prism. Right. Well, I wouldn't want my kids to go through it, but then again, I am sorry they didn't have a lot of the things we had, Jack. I know. That freedom.
Well, you know, too, because Everett was predominantly Italian, Sicilian, basically mixed, and Irish.
Irish and French.
Yeah, and French. There was a French section.
A lot of Caucasian. You had a lot of, we would say, Brahmins. You know. And then it would have a pocket Jewish community. An infinitesimal African American community in Everett, and an infinitesimal Spanish community in those days. Now I hear it's much more mixed, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So you know, it needed to grow up badly in those ways.
Well, listen, Ted, let me take a quick break, because tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, and I want to play an old Irish song here to honor St. Patty and all of us who.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
All of us who are Irish and all of us who want to be Irish, but you know, basically everybody has a little bit of Irish in them. So I want to play this here. This is a song that James Joyce loved, so it's going to take a bit to come in.
There was a Dublin street ballad in the last century that found its way into the music halls of Dublin. A song called Finnegan's Wake. James Joyce, the author, was fascinated by this song. Most of us just thought of it as another drinking song. The fella dies, is laid out, whiskey spills on him, the water of life, and needless to say, he rises from the dead. What else would he do? Right, the rest of us could see it as a pleasant little song, fun at a party. Joyce saw in it the entire cycle of life, death, resurrection of the whole universe.
Tim Finnegan lived in Water Street, a gentle Irishman, my God. He had a road for Richard Street, and the rise of the world he carried on. You see, it is sort of a tippler's way, where the luck of the liquor merchant was born. You had him on with his work each day, he was round the prater every morn. Well, on the man who thinks your partner, well, the glory of Tennessee. Well, they told him lots of fun and Finnegan's way. One morning, Tim felt rather full. His head felt heavy, which made him shake. He fell from the ladder, and he broke his skull, and they carried him home as corpse to wake. They rolled him up in a nice clean sheet, and they laid him out upon the bed, with a bucket of whiskey at his feet, and a barrel of porter at his head. What the man who lives here after a wealth of glorious mercy? What the fruit they show you lots of fun and Finnegan's way. His friends assembled at the wake, and Mrs. Finnegan called for lunch. First she brought in tea and cake, then pipes, tobacco and whiskey punch. Biddy O'Brien began to cry, such a nice clean corpse did you ever see? Tim Gordon, why did you die? Or shut your mouth, says Paddy McGee. What for the man who lives here, master, went the glory of Tennessee. One day, the fruit they show you lots of fun and Finnegan's way.
And Maggie O'Connor took up the job. Oh, Biddy, says she, you're wrong, I'm sure. Biddy gave her a belt in the gob, and she left her sprawling on the floor. Then the war did soon engage, woman to woman and man to man. Shillelagh was all the rage, and a round eruption soon began. Why did it happen? Just your master with the glory of Tennessee. One day, the fruit they show you lots of fun and Finnegan's way.
Then Mickey Maloney raised his head when the bucket of whiskey flew at him. It missed and fallen on the bed. The liquor scattered over Tim. The God hero boy, see how he rises. Timothy rising from the bed. Sir, hurl your whiskey around like praises. Thunder and Jesus, do you think I'm dead?
Like for the man who lives here, master, with the glory of Tennessee. One day, the fruit they show you lots of fun and Finnegan's way. Like for the man who lives here, master, with the glory of Tennessee. One day, the fruit they show you lots of fun and Finnegan's way.
Forgotten Heroes, the independent film that Hollywood refused to distribute.
They were asked to risk their lives in order to save their enemy.
The producers of Forgotten Heroes are donating 25% of all sales to the American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial Fund.
We need someone to go in there and bring him out.
From first-time director Jack Marino, the home run for America's Vietnam veteran.
They are Forgotten Heroes.
Buy the DVD now at ForgottenHeroesTheMovie.com. That's ForgottenHeroesTheMovie.com.
You're listening to the Warrior Filmmaker Show with Jack Marino, LA Talk Radio.
Okay, we're back here with Ted Minos, also known as Ted Bruce from Everett, and he's a director, producer, writer, actor for the Inwood Shakespeare Festival and Theater Company. So, Ted, how did you get this whole theater company going? Because I just think it's incredible what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Jack, it's Ted Minos.
Ted Minos. Oh, Minos. Okay, Minos. I'm sorry. Ted Minos.
When I came to New York, I lived in the Upper West Side, and one of the accessible things in the summer was Joseph Papp's incredible Delacorte Theater in Central Park. That's Central Park. And I would go there constantly. Yeah. And I saw quite a lot of Raul Julia. He was one of my favorite actors. I'm so sorry I never got to meet him. But before he passed away. He's a great actor, great stage actor.
Right.
I saw so many shows there, and I saw shows, in Broadway, when I could afford it, and off-Broadway, etc. And was in shows. But there was something about outdoor theater was so distinctly different than anything indoors. And I came up to this wonderful area, and I wondered if anyone had something going in the park. They may have had it before, but when I came up here, nothing was going on.
Right.
And it was about 16 years, still nothing happened. So I started something.
Right.
Co-produced for 2 years with someone. And just, first of all, it's like most actors, the intention, we'll produce something to do an interesting role. But it became much more than that. I think I was so beguiled by the audience after a while. There was something distinctly different in that collection of people, the demographics up here. There was that word I love so much, they were mixed.
Right.
They were the rich and the poor. They were the Republican and the Democrat.
That's right.
They were combined experience. They were combined, all experiencing this hopefully wonderful art form together.
Right.
And I think there's a formation of trust, even though it's unspoken. There's a formation of familiarity and community, even though it's unspoken. I think it's felt. It's palpable. It's visceral. And it had a lot to do, I think, with me continuing this, because I still feel that when things are working on the nights, in the summer night here, on stage wonderfully, there's something that happens in that audience.
Oh, yeah.
That you can feel.
I know.
And I think it nourishes the society as a whole.
Yeah.
It's outside of politics. It's outside of religion. It's outside of gender. It's outside of all the hot-button issues.
Right.
All the hot-button issues are there, and they're side by side, and lo and behold, we're getting along.
Right.
We share something. See, that's important to me.
Yeah.
That was part of it when I created Moose Hall Theater Company. Moose Hall, by the way, comes from Everett.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. That was,
remember Moose Hall?
Yeah, that's right. I never got the connection till you mentioned it.
Well, I have a picture of Moose Hall right before they tore it down. In fact, it's on my street. I lived on Ferry Street, 85 Ferry Street, and down the street past the hardware store, Everett Springs hardware store, was Moose Hall.
That's right.
Now, I was a kid who was in the high school band when I was in junior high, but because I played the trumpet, they needed more trumpet players. I was in the Everett High Band.
Yeah.
Being in the Everett High Band had its points. You got to watch in the parades, You got feted at all these little places like Moose Hall and with the Elks and all that. These guys would, let's give the band a dinner after that. There was wonderful things about these little clubs and these guys.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to beat the drum on this, but there were things that weren't so wonderful.
Yeah.
So say my father wouldn't be invited to be in these clubs, and a number of other groups wouldn't be invited to be in these clubs.
Right.
Moose Hall, to me, is a place where it invites everyone.
Right.
I don't care what gender they are. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care what politics they are. Whatever they are.
Right.
I want them all to come. I think that's essential. I think it's great that people have strong opinions. But I think it's more essential that they come and share them.
Right.
In a productive way.
Well, Ted, let me ask you though.
So that's what it meant to me. So my Moose Hall was kind of a reaction to where I grew up. That part of Everett.
Right. Now the logo of Moose Hall is that the logo they had in the building?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That was created by me. It's actually owned by me and Lee Kaplan. Lee Kaplan is a brilliant artist, and I had the great fortune. He's one of my closest friends, and he's just a brilliant artist, and he created that.
Yeah.
With I'd say, well, we need this. Let's make it. He came out first. The first vision he came out something was very artistic, and very so much like you'd see in many companies in New York or in a sophisticated city. And I said, I want something for meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
And theaters are known to be meat and potatoes, so to speak. So we worked on him, and he expanded his size, and he gave him the fez hat and the horns. I said, yes, that's it. I want something that's inviting to the everyman as well.
Right.
Theater isn't known for that in general, not these days.
Right.
Maybe not since Shakespeare's time. The Elizabethan theater was a great open theater. And again, we can get into that later, but he did write for all those demographics.
Of course he did.
Anyway, getting back to it, that's where the little logo came from.
Okay. Now,
it was that kind of inspiration.
Now, what kind of how big are the
collaboration between us?
How big are the crowds when you guys put on a play?
Depends on the night. Depends on the weather.
Okay.
It depends on the show. They do pretty well in general when the weather is good.
Yeah.
We have a very hardcore little audience up here that now come if it's raining, so I have to make sure they know we're not going to be out there if I feel it's too unsafe. But we rarely will cancel. I mean, we'll wait till the last minute because up here the weather can shift in 15 minutes.
Right.
And I've made the mistake of canceling the show because it looks like it's dreary, it's going to rain all night, and then lo and behold, the sun would come out, the birds would sing, and people would curse me for coming up and there's no show. So it's a very tricky thing. It's a challenge to do outdoor theater.
Well, I can imagine, and the thing is too. I mean, one time we were talking, and you told me that you had to go. Jack, I got to go. I have to write this proposal, and so you're basically getting the theater supports through donations. I mean, give out your website so if anybody wants to donate, they can look you up and contribute to it.
Yeah, all they have to remember is Inwood Shakespeare and Festival. It's InwoodShakespeareFestival.com, and you can donate online. And please do if please come and experience it.
Yeah.
You'll have a wonderful time, especially on a beautiful night with your friends and family and under the stars. It's a gorgeous place to be.
Right.
And when we're there, particularly, it's a safe place to be. Right. You're in a nice warm environment, surrounded by people in the park at night.
And people bring
you can walk away together in your groups. It's marvelous.
Yeah.
So come and have the experience. But by all means, if you can contribute, please do, because we live by the skin of our teeth here, and it's a labor of love.
Right.
It really is. There's at least to this point, there's no money to be had in terms of profit. It's like the Truman Capote story with Christmas Memory. They would get enough money to buy the rum, enough money to buy all the product for the cakes. They would make all the cakes. They would give them away, and they would end up with where they started.
Right.
It's like that every year. I'm making all these Christmas cakes. They get enough money to do it,
right.
To supply everyone, and then you start all over again.
Right.
And that's pretty much where we're at our best when it comes to money. Hopefully it'll be better soon, because it gets more expensive to do things for free, it seems. But we do quality work for all that.
Right.
I'm blessed with very talented people around me, and it seems you get better at what you do, and we attract more talented, more experienced people, because it's a much better showcase as time goes on for them, and that's the point. It's for the performers as well. So we have good shows up here and exciting shows up here, and I think people have a great time. And if it's theater for the first time, I think it's one of the best places to experience theater for the first time.
Oh yeah. And I've seen some of the pictures and some of the performances, as far as the photographs and the costumes and stuff you build and everything. And there's one group of pictures you guys have. Apparently, you have containers that would keep all your equipment and everything.
The Parks Department, the City of New York Parks and Recreation.
Right.
They've been marvelous with us.
Yeah.
I suppose we've earned our way over 15 years of supplying, I don't know, hundreds of thousands worth of free theater for them. But for us, they do let us have this container on the peninsula, which is our home.
Really?
Here in Inwood for our shows.
Yeah.
And when we started out, there wasn't much going on, and now it's becoming an attractive area for more and more people, which is terrific.
Right.
Since I've been up here and since I've been producing, the number of artists have increased. There's NOMA up here, supplying artists with help and benefiting them in technical ways, and benefiting them with economic ways as well, with grants. So it's just growing and growing up here in terms of creativity and art. I think I said this in an interview, maybe 12 years ago, that I think eventually Inwood would be another kind of village in terms of its creativity, in terms of supplying a place for artists to show their work and produce their work. So it is. It'll never be like the village. The village will never be like the village, but I think it will be a destination point, an artistic destination point.
And also, your wife is involved with this. She's an actress.
My wife is more than involved. You're talking about the costumes. She has a lot to do with creating them or recreating them. She is every reason why it's still going on. She has been the support for me throughout the last 30 years. But in terms of the creative support she's given me, everything is due to her when it comes to this company. So she's a technical director. Remember, I met her in the theater. She was a theater major, so she knows her way around lighting and electrics and all that. And she takes care of the intern program. It's just phenomenal person. Yeah, is my wife.
And your three...
Catherine Bruce. Yeah. And so she's the reason it's still going on, really.
God bless her. And you got three kids, basically, that grew up with this whole thing. And
I suppose they did. I hope they have good memories. I know Samantha is actually turned into a fine young actress, and she had been working with us since she was, was she 10 or so? And she went and trained as a professional. She's a professional actress, and she's working with us once again this year. She'll be in The Tempest. She'll be playing Miranda. And believe me, to audition for me is no easier being my daughter than being any actress that I don't know.
How do you like directing?
She has earned it.
Yeah. How do you like directing theater, basically?
I love directing theater. Yeah. I think I found one of the things, one of my heart loves is doing that and writing. But it's a bit of a relief this year, fortunately. This is the first year in 11 years I haven't written the second play. I had been adapting novels like Three Musketeers, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Dracula, Treasure Island, and writing original plays specifically for the outdoor venue.
Ted.
So I have amassed quite a few projects. Last year was The Life of Emiliano Zapata, and it was bilingual with translations projected above the action. I've been writing copiously for quite a long time, as well as directing.
Ted, listen. Ted,
wear a lot of hats.
Listen, Ted, I just got the wave off. I just got the wave off here. So.
All righty.
I gotta. Just listen. I'm glad you came. Yeah, you too. And good luck with everything. I mean, I just love what you're doing. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. So, and thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jack, and good luck to you.
Oh, yeah. Listen, if you come out to L.A., definitely look me up, all right?
And, folks, come on up. You're up to New York. Come up to the Inwood Shakespeare Festival this summer. You'll have a great time.
That's right. And we never got to do any Shakespeare tonight, but maybe I'll have you back on the show. We'll do some more.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll run some lines.
Let's play some more of that Irish music. That was wonderful. That was a wonderful piece you're playing, Finnegan's Way.
That's right. It's a great piece. Well, listen, Ted, give my best to your family and to you. Good luck with everything.
You too, Jack.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Jack Marino, Warrior Filmmaker, right here on LA Talk Radio.